Welcome to the Roads We've Traveled, episode 11. How is everyone doing today? My name is Pelletier. Hope everyone is doing great and, staying active, staying healthy and all that good stuff and loving their fellow human because God knows the world needs more of that right now. I'm joined today by one of my longtime friends, fellow vocalist, and just an all-around great guy, my buddy Dan Vieu, formerly of Vision Within. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Just another day in, COVID land, right?
COVID marathon.
COVID America. How's life been during this pandemic for you and your family?
I'd be lying if I didn't say it wasn't challenging. I got two younger kids where, when you shut down the parks, you shut down the stores, you shut down the movie theaters, and really the activities that would kind of keep them engaged, it's made it quite a bit challenging, and then when you tackle work, what do you do with your kids when there's no school? It's been a bit of a nightmare. Fortunately, I've got some internal supports that's allowed us to help our kids, but we're climbing the walls, man. We're ready for this thing to be over.
It's getting there, but like every other virus, like I just had this discussion with with family last night, and this talk about a second wave coming and everything, and it's just like the flu virus, there's no cure for the flu and it keeps coming back, and it's kind of like how this virus is, like there's going to be another wave of this, and we're no closer to getting a vaccine anytime soon. So it's just like, it's a way of life now, I guess, which sucks. But I can't imagine what you guys are going through. I don't have kids myself, but I can imagine how difficult and challenging it's got to be to not only be a provider but be an educator and also be a parent at the same time. It's got to be tough.
But I'm in the state of the mind, where we're doing what we can to do our part, which is stay social distancing. As much as I want, to go out there and begin life the way it was before all this happened, I understand that the inherent risks are much more dangerous, not to me, but, to the general public. I've got friends on both sides of, the thought process, well, let's open everything up and let, survival of the fittest, go about its way. But my frame of mind of that is, we're at what, 125,000 deaths with quarantine.
Yeah.
Quarantine and shutting stuff down. So what would that number look like if we did that very thing? And to be honest, I know that Britain had thought about doing that before what's his name? Boris Johnson ended up getting the virus. And the moment he got it, he was like, all right, well, we're going to do about face on that.
I do remember that. Yeah. I just saw something that China's cases are going back up again. I think that was just today. It's like, what the fuck? And like South America's cases they're basically where we were at, back in March with their numbers rising up. So it's definitely kind of scary. But at the same time too, it's like I do agree that we do have to start slowly easing our way back into some sort of normal and opening up businesses. That's why I kind of like what Connecticut's been doing. It seems to be working out right now where everything's just slowly opening back up and people are, being cautious and like only allowing a certain amount of people in and everything like that, which is great. But we also need the economy to come back a little bit because, country's not making money right now. So, but I do understand both sides, like you said too. We were talking about this when I had Doug on. What shows are going to be like for like venues and stuff right now. Once all this stuff starts clearing up a little bit. I mean, for me personally, I think I would probably hold off a little bit before I got into like going out and seeing a band live or something, just because I don't know how it would turn out or whatever. But at the same time, a lot of these venues are already closing because they're just not making money right now. So I don't know. What are your thoughts about all that?
Uh, I think it's going to be a dangerous time for venues. You know, right now they're losing money because no one's coming in, but when they do open up, they're not going to be able to be at full capacity, so they're going to lose more money, buying the beer or the supplies to, accommodate only 25% of capacity. And then the people that they have to pay to work that evening, is it going to be worth being open? So they got to weigh that in. And I think, coming from a musician standpoint, is it worth a musician going out there and playing to 25% capacity?
This is
Um,
this is on top of not getting paid enough already, not making anything at all.
well, I wouldn't make any money at all. I mean, I would
Yeah.
assume not to make any money at all for these shows. But that's also assuming that they made it through COVID. I mean, a lot of these bars and venues probably didn't have any sort of cachet of money to support them in the likelihood that they had to shut down for 3 months. Some of these bars are operating on a month-to-month budget at best, due to the ebb and flow of the economy. So at this point, being on suspend for 3 or 4 months and having to trickle open, I'd be surprised to see if at least 50% of the venues return back.
Yeah, I know some of them are already closing down here in Connecticut. There's a venue in Bridgeport that's already closing their doors called the Acoustic. But like places like Cherry Street Station, which you and I are both familiar with, we've both played there. Um, they can't really offer anything other than alcohol. You know what I mean? So they've got a virtual tip jar open. I believe a GoFundMe as well. I posted it in the Doug episode for anyone that would like to support. Definitely, please donate what you can, because it's like one of the very last venues that support original music in Connecticut, So, and we were saying before, like a lot of places only have cover bands, which, cover bands are great and everything. No offense, because I know you play covers with your current project right now, but I
No
mean,
offense taken.
as far as like original music goes, there's not a lot of places that will allow original music up here, and it sucks, So definitely support the venues that are going through their struggles right now. It'll mean a lot to them.
Absolutely. And, you're going to hear it here first, but there is a secret project that I've been working on the past year with a band.
Ooh,
And they've been around for a while. And we're actually one song shy of finishing the album right now. So
very cool.
um, we already got a music video in the tank. And,
Is
we're waiting.
Do I know the person that did the music video for you? Because I think I might know who it is.
I I don't know if you know the person.
Okay.
It's not your normal videographer,
Okay.
as I put it. So it's not like Escobar.
No,
Uh,
no, no.
but yeah, we
Are they from Connecticut?
yeah, but he's within the band.
Oh, okay. All right. I was thinking of somebody else then. I thought it was Knob because he's had this secret music video for a band that he's been working on. And he won't say who it is or anything. And I'm like, come on, like tell me something.
Well,
But
we've been chomping at the bit. We've been seeing all these bands right now, putting out their promotion stuff. Some of the groups in the area that have been a combination of one group or another that perform, put together their own kind of super group. But we've been flying incredibly low under the radar because when we're ready to come out, we're coming out with a shit ton of material.
very cool.
So,
Well, I'm excited. If you need a guy to do lyric videos or graphic design work, definitely let me know.
oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's awesome though. I can't wait to hear the new stuff, man. I'm excited to finally get some new original music from you. How's well, obviously right now you're not playing shows with your current band One Shot, but I mean like how did that start, and when was the last show that you guys played out?
Well, One Shot, actually, I ended up joining them probably a month before Vision Within ended up folding. Or I don't want to say fold. I ended up leaving, and they just decided not to kind of carry on. But um, it was just by chance. I was just looking for something, to get into that was outside of the original scene for the moment, just to kind of, have fun. Not that the original scene isn't fun, but the cover scene is entirely different. You're walking in to a paycheck already. You're walking into, booze already. And you're walking into an environment where people are going to know your music already. And so it's easier.
Mm.
And I was looking for something easy at the moment. And this is not a knock on, the popular cover bands and old Derek and the Fun Bags and what's that, Chaser 8 and who are the other ones? Trailer Park Boys or Trailer Trash. I don't know.
There are a lot of cover bands out there.
Right. So it's no knock on them, but I wanted just a party atmosphere that these guys had, and minimal work. When I was with Vision, I did a lot of work. I did, I helped with a lot of recording, did a lot of promotions, did a lot of the extra stuff that I just got burnt out. So I wanted to step into something that I didn't have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, just go in, play, have fun, and leave. I hear you, man.
Exactly. So I just did kind of a search on Facebook, believe it or not. And these guys had posted something up like 2 months earlier looking for a singer to do 90s covers. And I was like, well, shit, that's my wheelhouse. So I reached out to them, and believe it or not, the audition was a open mic night at a bar in Holyoke. And it wasn't like showing up to somebody's basement, hearing how I sound and then kind of making a decision. It was, nope, you're going to play these 5 songs in front of a live audience tonight.
That sounds like a pretty awesome audition, to be honest with you.
So that's what I did. I went in and I took the 5 songs, had them in the background, just sang on top of it. And, after that, they invited me back, which I assumed was a good sign. And, it kind of went from there. So I've been with those guys now a year and a half. Great bunch of dudes. They were actually former members of local bands within the Chicopee, Massachusetts area as well. And, kind of the same mindset. They just got a little saturated with the local stuff and just wanted to do something different. And, that's where we are. The last show we ended up playing was at a place called the Drunken Rabbit in South Hadley. It's a brewery, and it was actually the week before the formal emergency shutdown by the state.
Ah.
So we were probably the last show a lot of people saw before the shutdown.
Gotcha. And everything got canceled after that, I'm assuming, correct? Like, I'm sure you probably had a bunch of shows already booked and that you had to cancel, right?
We did. We had one probably a week or two right after that at Port Richards in Chicopee, Mass. And
they're going by Geraldine's now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember the old Geraldines. I played there.
Yeah, the Wrinkle Farm.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going by Geraldine's now. But we had a show set up for them, and we actually thought about canceling prior to them actually suspending the show because a family member of 2 of the bandmates is a gentleman who's in a vulnerable state, and if they had caught the virus, it would have been a guaranteed death sentence for somebody.
Gotcha.
So we made a decision just to hang it up and ride this thing out.
Are you gonna, when this is all over, you guys still gonna play out, or are you gonna focus on your new project?
I'm gonna focus on both.
Oh, okay, cool. Gonna be busy guy.
You would think so, but when I was with Vision, I was doing a lot. And the amount of energy that I popped into that band, which, I have no regrets. I loved every minute of Vision. I love, the bandmates, but it was a lot that I took on my shoulders at that time. So, now even being in two bands, I'm not the one responsible for booking. I'm not the one responsible for the promotions, the imagery, the designs for the band. I just show up, and it's been so much fun and easier that I can easily do both without really worrying about it.
Oh, it's good, man. And that's how it's got to be when you're in a band. And I've talked about this on previous episodes with like Cody and Desiree and stuff like that. Like, it's not just one person doing everything. It's got to be, it's an equal partnership. You're going into a project with like 4 or 5 other people, and like everything should be divided up equally, whether it's jobs or whatever they bring to the table, kind of thing. And when I was we were talking before we started recording that when I was within the Red, I was doing the poster designs, I was doing the video editing, social media stuff. Chris was doing the recordings, John was doing the bookings, and Pete was hustling tickets. So it was, kind of the same thing that you're talking about too. That's how it's got to be. And if one person's doing all the work themselves, it's not really fair to that one person, on top of having a normal life outside of these projects. It's tough, so
Yeah.
I get it, man. And I'm glad that I know Vision, you were pretty much doing everything, and you weren't really too happy by the end of it. But I gotta say, man, like I do miss the music though, because like you're one hell of a singer, and just playing a bunch of shows together. And like how we met originally, we met at All Stars, which is no longer around anymore, but we play you've said this story so many times that how can I forget about it. But you guys were opening up for us, and I was very outgoing and stuff like that. And I guess I made a good impression because years to now we're still good friends. You had me on your last record and everything. So, and I definitely miss hanging out with you, man. Like it's been so long, and like I can't wait till this shit's over, because I definitely want to see you play again and catch up and have a couple drinks. But how did Vision Within start? And you were talking about how it ended, but when did it start? And what are some of the best shows and experiences that you got from that project?
It started in the fall of 2012. Back when Craigslist was kind of the go-to spot for finding musicians, before it got, I don't know, even more weirder than it is now. But, it started through an ad. I was actually working with the drummer from the band I was in previously, a band called Prism that only played like maybe a handful of shows. But we put out an ad. We had Chris and Frank, of course, respond to the ad. And, from there, it was just kind of history. We put, about a year's worth of work in before we started playing out and getting into venues. And we popped out a first album called Departure, which, probably I'd say out of the entire Vision Within catalog turned out to be the most popular and still stands. I hear it in the radio actually out here in Massachusetts.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just, no matter what we did after that, I would send them the stuff. I'm like, listen, here's some better stuff. Here's some really good tunes. But for whatever reason, on the local hour, Departure always stuck with them. And so, it was funny because I want to say about 3 years ago now, me and my wife we're out on our anniversary night, out somewhere eating. And now, mind you, at that point, Departure had been out for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And we're just driving home, and suddenly, boom, it's on the radio. We're like, what the fuck? So
I wonder if 104 still plays in the Red for homebrew, but to be honest, I haven't listened to FM radio in so long. So.
Well, and that's the hard part is, and that's one of the things I realized with Vision is that people were not playing music traditionally on FM radio anymore. We had to go try to get into Pandora, try to get into Spotify, try to get in, the more streaming apps, even though the consequence of that is no money.
Yeah.
But, if you're in this to earn a buck, good luck.
Yeah.
But
Fully
yeah,
agree.
vision, to kind of circle it back around, we started in 2012, got Chris and Frank in, did our first album, then our drummer and our bassist jumped ship because our drummer ended up having a kid, and the bassist and the drummer like a package deal. So they left, and then we had to reform, and so Renee, the bassist, actually lives across the street from me. And so she saw that we were looking for a bassist, asked to apply. And then we got our other drummer off of a Craigslist ad. He lasted about 2 years. And then we got Armani. And then, that's really it. I mean, the story of finding the players wasn't really unique. It's the shows and experiences that we got from it that were amazing. I want to say that some of the best shows we had was one show called Rise of the Underground at Cherry Street, I want to say about 4 years ago. It had Paragon, it had Lament, it had Serious Fades, it had Saneless, just had a lot of good bands on it. And it was just it was a good show because we took the whole, band hops off, next band hops on, band hops off, next band hops on, and the crowd, would stay watch their band and leave. And then, another person's crowd would come in, maybe watch your band. So I wanted to mix it up and, create something in between that kept people in the room. And so we did kind of a Cards Against the local scene.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember you. I don't think I was at that show, but I remember you starting that.
It was awesome because it worked. We kept everybody in from beginning to end because, one, they wanted to see what fucked up shit was going to be said. And then two, they wanted to win. They wanted a beer. They wanted to, even the smallest of token was important at that point because, when you're hearing something you're unfamiliar with, after 45 minutes, your saturation is done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't sing along with it because you don't know what's happening next. Mm-hmm. So you got to keep people's mind circulating on why they want to stay there. Not just, to hear their friends, but to hear the new music, but to also to get some type of award out of it.
That's a really cool idea, man. Like, I wish I was there for that. But I can relate though, because like we had, back in the Red days, we had a guy who was from Guerrilla Music, and he was trying to throw us some ideas on how to like get the crowds going, this, that, and the other. And I'll never forget one idea he gave us was like to get like a marshmallow gun, and we're like, what the fuck is that? Like, oh, you just shoot marshmallows out in the crowd. And I'm like, is this guy high or something? Because like I've never heard of that. One, two, who the fuck would want marshmallows thrown at him at a fucking rock show? Like, I can understand like a t-shirt cannon or something, but a lot of these venues aren't big enough for a t-shirt cannon. You know what I mean? So that Cards Against Humanity thing is actually pretty genius, and I wish I could have been there to see that. That sounds like it was really fun.
Well, I'm hoping to bring some of that creativity back with the new group. Once things open up, I mean, it's not looking like we're going to get out there and do it this year because of the COVID stuff. So we're hoping by next year. But I was talking to the guys today. I'm like, listen, time is not on my side. I'm getting old. So well, I don't want to be an aging hipster up there.
Hey, whatever you're doing, man, you still look good for your age, man. You still, look like a sexy younger version of me. I'm aging like old milk, so, I'm growing this beard out to hide my double chin. So,
I appreciate it, and I'm gonna really look forward to when we're playing out, and I get you back up on that stage with me.
That'll be fun, yeah, definitely. But I mean, like, have you thought about live streaming in the meantime with the guys from your band? I know a lot of people are doing it right now, and a lot of people are taking like donation tips and stuff like that. I mean, that could be something you could look into to like, get your fix for right now, until things start calming down out there.
The cover band, we thought of doing it, but the original band, we're keeping it shrouded in secrecy until we're ready to pull the trigger.
Gotcha.
So, which we may do by the winter, but this is a group of very meticulous people, including myself, and we don't want to come out with anything less than stellar, because we know with all the content that's coming out right now, it's a flood and it's overwhelming. I can't tell you that on my Facebook page, at least once a week, there's a new video, there's a new band, there's a new, something that, gets lost with all the other stuff that's being submitted.
Yeah, because everything is just oversaturated.
Exactly. So there's no breathing room. So we're hoping to kind of time it in a way where we can release it so it doesn't get lost in the flood.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. Good for you for being patient about that. I know a lot of people pull the trigger right away and it doesn't really pay off. So, I mean, to have something that you believe in so strongly about and to be patient about and wait for it, I admire that a lot, because I'm the same way. Like, I want to do a solo album before I turn 40, and I'm kind of at a halt right now because I can't work with anybody. So, with everything going on right now. But I mean, just to have a goal like that and say, I'll get to it when things calm down a little bit. But that's cool, man. I'm glad to hear that.
It's killing us. I'll be honest, it's killing us. Like, we got a couple tunes on there that is very different than what's out there. And you know me, I like to push the envelope and see where we can go. And there's some shit in there that I'm biting my knuckle. I'm like, I want this to come out, So
I hear you. Well, you could always send me something. I mean, I'd like to hear something. I won't tell anybody. So I talked a lot about music. I mean, like, what got you into music? Like, what made you want to be a singer before, like, Vision Within and everything else? Like, how did you get into it?
Always been into music my entire life. By the way, this is my oldest, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
So,
I'm one of your dad's old friends.
Yeah, this is AJ. He used to play in a band that I used to play with all the time.
Wait.
He's looking at. I got the albums that we done on the wall in the background here.
Yeah.
In case, but Alex actually got to see Dad play on the stage with Nonpoint.
I was at that show.
That was when we're talking about amazing memories and amazing shows. That is up there, one of my most favorite shows ever. One, because I love Nonpoint's music, and just to have the opportunity to get up there and play in front of that many people at that type of stage was astounding. But Alex was a little boy at that point. I think he may have been
I was probably around 5, probably 6.
It was about 4 or 5, and because it was an all-ages show, he was able to go. So I went out right before that show and bought him the biggest earmuffs I could find.
I think I remember.
It was, I'm going deaf, so I didn't want my kid to go deaf.
Oh, of course.
So we got him the headphones, and during the show, we're up on the stage. Someone got a picture of him where the whole stage is lit up. I'm in the background, but it's blurry. You can tell I'm there, and I'm singing on the edge of the stage. But there's this silhouette of Alex with the headphones on watching me. It's my favorite picture of all time. So I've actually printed it out and hung it up here. But, one of the fortunate things of being involved in music and staying in a band even after having kids is my kids can see, the benefits, the creativity, and 2, the torture it puts me through, so that if they're ever interested, it's a tale of learning and what they can experience when they get into it when they're older.
Yeah.
So
we all play together, me, Mom, and Dad.
So I don't want to talk about video games right now, buddy.
But later.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay. Well, it's probably 5 o'clock.
We'll talk about it later. So, but yeah. So, sorry, I went on a tirade there.
Oh no, it's all good.
Back to your other question, what got me into music? I've always been to music when I was younger. My family is kind of built on that musician plateau. My sisters were musicians. My one of my oldest sisters, played French horn, played trumpet. All three of us were in drum and bugle corps growing up. But singing happened entirely by accident.
How so?
Well, I was 22, 23 years old, and I wanted to learn to play guitar. And so I went out and bought this shitty $200 Ibanez from Daddy's Junkie Music.
I remember that place.
Oh my God. And all in all, they were a lot better than Guitar Center. They didn't rip you off quite as much.
Yeah.
But I got a guitar from them and probably one of the crappiest amps I've ever had. And just noodled. And one day was like, all right, well, I'm going to take this guitar and try out for this band. We're probably all crappy musicians, but heck, it's worth a shot. So I show up and bomb it. I've sucked ass. Like, and so they're trying to do the nice thing, and they're like, oh yeah, that's good. Can you play this? Oh, could you try to keep a tempo? Is your guitar tuned? So the audition goes to crap. It's at the very end, and we're about to say our goodbyes, but the singer wasn't there. Singer had been sick or whatever reason, and so they start playing a song. I can't remember to this day what it was. It was a song that was popular on the radio at the time. So I hopped on the mic, started singing the song, and so they're like, do you mind singing this other song? So I'm thinking they're just fucking with me at this point. So they had me singing 3 or 4 songs. And so I did. And then they're like, all right, man, we'll be in touch. And I'm like, okay, well, that was weird. Things are over. So I got a call the next day. They're like, hey, do you want to be our singer? I'm like, well, what about your current singer? And they're like, listen, man, you got a bit to work on, but you're already, head above our current singer. So would you be interested? And so I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And that's where it started.
That's very cool. For me, I don't know if I've ever told you this story or whatever, but like I've been singing since I was a kid, and I was in youth choir with my sister growing up because my father was the lead in our church choir. So I got my singing from him, and I took lessons professionally in my early mid 20s, something like that. And then when I got back in, when I was in the Red, I ended up going back and taking lessons professionally again too. So that was my background in singing. I tried playing guitar. I could play a little bit, but not enough to like pass, and I could maybe play outside, but it's going to sound like shit if I play it. But that's something that I've always wanted to get back into and try to pick up again, is the guitar, especially right now, since I want to work on a solo album. But no, that's very cool, man. Like totally by accident. That's pretty awesome just to find out like, hey, I can actually sing. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was one of those what the hell moments, and I lucked out. And, that's one of the things I pride myself on and sometimes gets me in trouble is taking a risk, taking a risk and jumping and hoping that I land. So, and that was one of the examples of how it worked out for me.
Very cool. Well, I don't think I really know much about like growing up for you. Like, how was growing up for you up in Massachusetts? What was that like? I mean, besides that, wow, amazing throwback photo that you threw up the other day, Mr. Zach Morris, boy band looking senior portrait. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, Jesus Christ, he's had looks his entire life. I look like a fucking sausage in high school. So I mean,
a sausage. Well, what kind of sausage? I mean, Italian sausage can look sexy, right?
Girthy.
What's that big fat round sausage that you get at the I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember either. I don't
You
even
know
know
what I'm
what.
talking about, right? Like
I know what
like
you're
the
talking about.
pound-sized sausage.
Yeah, I can't believe I just called myself a sausage. Like a sausage would be an upscale to what I actually looked like back in high school. But yeah, what was growing up like?
You know, I'm gonna be frank with you. I had a strange childhood. You know, one parent that worked, one parent that kind of bounced from job to job. I had two older sisters, but you know, I was an awkward kid. You know, when you talk about mental health and you talk about, you know, mental structure, I guess you would say, growing up, I struggled a bit. I had a lot of ADD stuff going on. I still do as an adult, but I also had a real bad speech impediment that I struggled with even today. It was very challenging for me to publicly speak. It was challenging for me to really participate in really communicate with people because I would stumble over words. You know, I couldn't pronounce things correctly, like three and free. Gave me a really bad lisp, and so it was really bad for me because on top of it, I was a gymnast. I was in band. I was a consummate target. So even though I had these dashing good looks, I was pretty much on the outside a lot and got probably the victim of many jokes and assaults due to my, you know, how I was presented. You know, now I'm much more confident. I can speak clearly, but it's not the case when I was 18. It took a long struggle for me to learn how to talk, to have a basic conversation with another person without lisping, without stumbling over my words, without really just struggling to have the conversation.
Wow, I would have never have guessed because I mean every time we talk and you know have conversations, you're always like very like clear and like you use a lot of big words sometimes and so like I'm not that intelligent and be able to my vocabulary is very limited. But like we always have like great conversations every time we talk, and I never would have thought any of that. That must have been really hard, man.
It was. I had to learn to think quickly. I had to learn to think about alternative words that would not enunciate my lisp or enunciate my speech impediment. And I had to do it quickly. I had to, you know, when someone's asking me a question, I had to think about what words were not going to make me look as impaired as I did.
Mm.
And your brain gets a little bit faster as a result because you know you're used to now saying alternative words and alternative language a bit faster. But it was pretty hard for me, and you know I think if I hadn't learned how to get better at it, I probably wouldn't even be where I am in the career I am right now because it requires me to do a lot of you know open conversation with large groups of people.
Mm.
So.
What do you do for work now?
I work for Greater Springfield Senior Services. I am what they call an EOEA director. Our company works as an extension of the Executive Office of Elder Affairs from the state of Massachusetts. And so I oversee 3 or 4 departments of, let's say, probably about close to 100 people that provide services to the elderly and the disabled. And so we go out into the community and we try to find these people nursing, social and community resources that allow them to still live freely in the community without being admitted into a nursing home.
That's got to be a very stressful job, I can imagine, especially with everything going on right now.
It is, but it's hugely rewarding because I have a really good team. It's a really good company, a lot of smart people, and we're doing good. You know, I could have done anything with my degrees. I could have gone into computer science. I could have gone into government. I could have done anything, but I chose to help people because at the end of the day, you know, these people need somebody in place that can better think of the resources and the help that could keep them alive and keep them well.
That's very cool, man.
So yeah,
that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you can feel that way and get rewarded that way, and just be proud of what you do. I think that's really cool. I'm still trying to find that myself with what I'm doing in life, so I'm getting there. But no, it's really awesome, man. And like going back to like growing up a little bit, and where you said you were picked on a lot too because of everything. How did you deal with all that?
Not well. I was kind of had three strikes against me. I was a gymnast, so I did gymnastics outside of school, but in high school the male teams were gone, so I had to be paired with the women's team. So you can only imagine the striking point that created. Obviously I was in the band, and obviously my impairment, so it was rough. Suffered from a bit of depression, huge self-esteem issues for quite a long time, even up into my 20s. But I just got to a point now in my age where I don't give a fuck. Like, when you're a kid, it means the world. It means the world how people perceive you, because you want to feel like you're doing right, that who you are is right. And no matter how somebody tells you, you're okay, it's hard for you to believe that when what your target is and what you're struggling with. So it took a long time for me to realize that. I probably lost a lot of opportunities for good friendships, good relationships as a result of that insecurity.
Well, things happen for a reason, like you had to go through a lot. I had to go through a lot myself too to get to where I am right now. And I'm still working on things to this day. Like I was in therapy for over a year, not too long ago, just dishing out stuff that was going on in my life and just figuring out like why I do certain things, or why am I drinking more and this, that, and the other, like what's going on that's making me do these things to myself. And it took a while to like just get my brain back to where I felt good about myself. And just like you said, like I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me anymore, you know what I mean? I'm just focusing on me, and that's the only thing, you know what I mean? Like of course I'm there to help others out, especially my family, but you you got to live your life at the same time too, and you got to do it your way. You can't have anyone else tell you otherwise. So, and it took me a long time, like you said, self-esteem. I had no self-esteem, man. Like I was that awkward introverted kid back in school that got picked on and bullied a lot. And like, even like, into my 20s, like I was just very quiet. And like, when I was up on stage, I was a completely different person. That was me when I was up on stage. And I always found comfort there, but then I would question myself after, like, why can't I be that guy in normal life? You know what I mean? So it took a while to like blend the two together where I can be confident and outgoing and stuff. And, it seems to be working out well. I got friends like you now in my life. So,
Well, one of the things that I learned, while finding where I am now today is that, for every person you help, there are now two positive influences in your life for every retractor. So, what I found with helping people and being more positive when it comes to community engagement, all that negative shit and all the negative perspectives that were aimed towards me in the past beginning to fade that much more, because I can tell you right now, there are more people like you and I than you can ever imagine. And they're all waiting for somebody to share that same experience and understanding with them that, pushes back on the people that created that negative environment for us. There's a lot more of us, but that hesitation, that inability to connect prevents us from pushing back harder against those that cause the negativity.
I think that could kind of, uh, you know, relate to what's going on in the world right now. I mean, not with just COVID, but with like this new civil rights movement. We were talking about it in the last few episodes about Black Lives Matter and everything, and like how not a lot of people are educated enough, and they're quick to make decisions, and there's still a lot of racism going on in the world because, you know, people were taught that way. And
Black Lives Matter should be an NGO. So, you know, we talk about non-government organizations that influence. You've got Greenpeace, you've got all these other influential organizations that the government recognizes and that the United States recognizes. Black Lives Matter should be that because they are just as important and they're just as valuable. You know, one of the things that, you know, and this isn't just a now thing for me. This is something that I believed in well before all this started happening. That's why in the last album, you know, I had that song Gen H with Way Harris, where we talked about it, that very moment where African Americans were being targeted. You know, Ferguson, New York, and LA at that very point. You know, we had, you know, Brown, we had the Trayvon Martin, we had who's the gentleman that got chokehold in New York for a fucking cigarette. You know, it's Black Lives Matters is the pinnacle of freedom, is the pinnacle of what America stands for, and the message targeting Black Lives Matter for the past 3 years has been disgusting because they're trying to discredit them and trying to discredit the message for so long that this most current circumstance only added value to what Black Lives Matters has represented over the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be an NGO. I think that it should be a straight up recognized organization because that is value much in addition to the message that they're trying to present. You know, trying to label it as a mass of people who are against the police and against the military. Fuck off.
Yeah.
That's not who they are. You don't say that about Greenpeace. You don't say that Greenpeace is anti, you know, business. You don't say that they're a terrorist organization.
Mm.
So what the fuck?
Oh, I fully agree, man. And for anybody listening right now that thinks that, you know, if you're going to come up and say all lives matter, you know, you could stop listening to this podcast, because if you can't recognize that Black Lives Matter as well, you know, that's the problem. You know, you can go around saying
all lives matter. Then why aren't they taking that fucking flag that they're painting black, white, and blue and erase it? Because you're taking a message that's saying all lives matter and you're enunciating cops. You're saying all lives matter, but these guys matter the most because they're putting their lives on the line. Guess what? They volunteered for the job.
Yep.
That's what happens. You're a construction worker. You fall off the building. You volunteered to work there. That's a casualty of the job.
Yeah.
Dealing with humans is a casualty of the job.
Mm-hmm.
Being black is not a choice. You don't sign up for that. You don't go to academy for 3 months and have a license to kill somebody because you're black.
Exactly.
You're black because you're black. And, you know, this all lives matter bullshit is a counter to the movement, and it's intentional and it's propagandic.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because that has been the dialogue whenever we talk about race or we talk about equal rights over the past decade. You know, let's go back to Obama being in office. The initiatives and the stuff that he did in office, if you look at it, he couldn't be progressive because of the way that the government turned around. You know, you had Republican Senate, you had, you know, Republican House. The guy couldn't get anything through. He did the best he could as a president. And a lot of it, if you look at why they turned their backs on him, it had to do with race. And then they bitch about how the guy didn't get anything done. You can't get anything done with 2/3 of Congress working against you. And if you looked at what he was trying to get done, it was an extension of the white guys who were before him.
Yeah.
He wasn't putting any programs that were brand new. I mean, George W. Bush, TARP, all that other crap, going after Osama bin Laden. The white guys were proposing that same shit before he got into office. So the past decade has just been a constant message of how to counter the black message, how to counter progress, and how to keep white people in power and in charge. And I know white people don't like to hear that. They don't like to hear that they have an advantage, that the game has been tilted towards them the entire time. But that's the facts.
And it's been like that for over 400 years now. I mean, like, look at how this country started. I mean, like, we stole the land from Native Americans, you know what I mean? And then this entire country was built off the back of slavery, you know? And I that's my argument every time, like, somebody wants to come up and say, you know, like, all lives matter. I'm like, no, you don't understand, like, anything. Like, learn from history. Like, you know, see what these people have gone through and struggled through over the years, and you would understand why, you know, things are the way they are, and you should be thinking differently and, you know, representing and helping them, you know?
You want to know why? It's those same people that drive around with the "Don't Tread on Me" sticker on their fucking car.
Yep.
It's the fat white guy who puts the "Don't Tread sticker on the car. Now, let me ask you this.
They're also rocking the Confederate flags and, you know.
What's being treaded on? Their people. And I say their people.
Yeah.
You know, the high-end conservatives, you know, go military, go Republicans. They're making the laws against transgenders. They're the ones that are shooting down healthcare. They're the ones shutting down programs for the poor, who are, of all, the minority. Who the fuck is treading on the white guy with the sticker on his truck? You can go out and get any fucking job he wants. You can go out and get any education he wants. You can go out and get any property he wants. You know, I just don't get it. We have built ourselves into a mental frenzy of racism and programming that's occurred so long that you ask these guys, you know, logistically, when you pair them up to the facts, they can't take it.
Mm-hmm.
It blows their mind. And so their immediate response is liberal media. You're liberal. You're an idiot. You're what's that one? Libetard. Oh, that pisses me off the most.
Yeah.
Like, not only are you accusing somebody because they're trying to logistically give you analysis and facts, you're trying to demean their position by name calling on top of it. Like, it's just, you know, but let's talk about the Confederate flag.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. I mean, like,
so how many losers get to hang their banner for hundreds of years afterwards? Like, how many, you think that people in Germany are going around putting up statues of Hitler and the Nazi sign and saying, it's a representation of our past? Like, what the fuck? Like, if we saw that, we'd be like, that's stupid. But here we are putting up a monument of General Lee and talking about the South and the pride of the South. Fuck you, you lost. You tried succeeding from the Union, you lost. You tried to promote slavery, you lost. What does that flag attribute to Southern values other than what it meant on face value, which was separation, slavery, and oppression?
Yep.
If you're talking that flag means Southern cooking, then put up a fucking KFC sign. You know, like, why do we have to hold on to this flag and some sort of memorandum of a representation of Southern past? It's a fallacy. They lost.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hang up the loser's banner. And so this whole time when we're like, we got to defend it, no, you don't. It's done. It's gone. Just like we don't hang up the 13 colonies flag. You know, somebody was like, wow, we were better back when we were 13 colonies than 13 stars. No, nobody's waving that fucking flag. So it's stupid. To me, it's a veiled attempt at preserving a racist ideal.
Mm-hmm. And on top of it, it represents a part of the country that was against America. You know what I mean? Like, what do we say now? Like against, all these people now are saying like, oh yeah, the terrorists are against America, this, that, and the other. Like, we should take them out. Well, guess what? Like, the South was against America. They wanted to be their own nation, and they would fight and kill us to, get their way or whatever. On top of promoting slavery too. And like, you still want to represent a flag like that? Like that makes
Our current government is against America. We're shooting protesters outside the White House for a photo op.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not anti-American, tell me what is, because that on its face is anti-American. We built into the Constitution the opportunity for peaceful protest for that very reason, so that we can negotiate and renegotiate the terms of our contract as citizens with the government as a peaceful way of doing it. And the reason we did that was because of Shays' Rebellion, right before the Constitution was built. And people don't want to talk about this. When they talk about the looters and they talk about, Alex, can you shut the door? When you talk about the looters and you talk about the violence, the Constitution was built off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Shays' Rebellion was a result of the government taking land and oppressing the people. So what did all the white farmers do? They renegated. They went and they burned down cities all the way down to Philadelphia. And as a result, everybody got together and said, you know what, we got to put together a body of rules and laws so that we can protect those people and prevent another rebellion from happening again. And so when you look at the civil rights movement right now, there is no damn difference between that other than the color of the skin of the people who are promoting it. That's fact.
I couldn't agree more, man. Like, it's like I tell everybody, like, learn your history. You know what I mean? Like, it's cliche to say, but I mean, like, if you don't learn from your history, we're doomed to repeat it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stupid people in this country that don't pay attention or learn. You know what I mean? They don't educate themselves. And,
well, it's even worse because there's a war on education right now. The moment you come out and you say, I'm an educated man, they say, well, where were you educated? Well, at this university. Well, it's a bunch of liberals, and they're brainwashing you. That's my favorite.
Mm.
They're brainwashing me with statistics and data and science. What do you want me to learn? Carson Tucker from Fox News? Please.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not really excited for this election coming up, but Trump's got to go. Enough's enough. You know what I mean? I'm not excited for Biden, and I don't know, man. Like,
Biden's not the best candidate at this point. I take a dead squid over Trump.
Yeah.
And I gave the guy, the chance at the beginning because, listen, I've got conservative ideals. I've got democratic ideals. I don't believe in that you're either one side or the other.
Yeah.
It's easier to lean towards the Democratic side because the right side is in this hole where you have to be against abortion. You have to be against, people who are against prayer in schools. Like, the Republicans have gone so far to a side I don't agree with, but even the Democrats have gone too far to a side I don't agree with. But if you're in the middle, both sides are trying to tip you to push you to make a choice. But this election it's dangerous now because Trump has done things in the presidency that is irreparable. It can't be undone. We're talking about a guy, listen, I know they said he didn't include with Russia, but come on, dude. Like, the back channel conversation, Mueller never said he was innocent. He said, I can't try a sitting president.
Mm.
That to me doesn't say innocence. Then he did a quid pro quo with Ukraine. Again, guy was impeached by the House of Congress. Now that's just the big legal stuff. That doesn't talk about what he dialed back in terms of LGBT rights, the racism that he's allowed to run rampant in the country, and it also speaks to how he's been treating women.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he treats women and he talks about women, the way he treats female reporters. Listen, he can't make a law if his life depended on it. He doesn't even know his ass from his elbow. He's getting advised by other people. They're saying this is a good idea. And he's like, yep, that's a good idea. And he's a mouthpiece. But he's a terrible mouthpiece. You know, COVID, that could have been tackled back in January when the World Health Organization said, we have a problem. He said it's a, what did he say? It was a hoax?
Yeah.
I don't trust this guy's judgment at all. I'd rather give that judgment to my 5-year-old and see what happens. You know, but it isn't about Trump. If this was Obama in his seat, I'd give Obama the same criticism. Obama probably would have already been impeached. You know, it's just, he's become too dangerous. And we as a country have to make a decision to choose between whether we want somebody that's going to continue us down this path, or, you know, let's say we put Biden in and Biden just flounders for 4 years. Fine. I'd rather deal with no progress than dissension.
I had this discussion last night with some family, and I was just like, you know, thinking out loud. I'm like, do you ever think we're going to see like another political party rise to power like the Republicans or the Democrats in our lifetime? And my aunt and uncle were like, well, probably not in my lifetime, maybe yours. And I think that's what we need. You know what I mean? I think we need progression here. We need change, and neither party has really been doing it. You know what I mean?
Right. I honestly think that we're not going to see it before we see, you know, a civil disobedience and potentially another civil war. And I know that sounds extremist, but, you know, look at the human rights challenges that are occurring right now. You know, you got the minority issues, you got the LGBT issues. You know, at some point, there's going to be, if there's not change as a result of Floyd's death, I think that we are building a cauldron of civil unrest that's going to unload itself again. Because right now, you and I can't have this type of discussion with a Democrat who's too far to the left or a Republican who's too far to the right. It starts getting personal quick. Yeah. And I've never, you know, seen it like that ever. You know, when I went to school, and I had the advantage of, I started my degree in political science in Massachusetts. So you're talking about the most liberal democratic, you know, state in the union. But I finished it down in the University of Indianapolis, which was, you know, again, red state. You know, it's about as far right as you can get. So I had the opportunity to see both perspectives, and both perspectives is what has allowed us to become an amazing country, and the ability to see progress and the ability to change. You know, I go back to the civil rights of the 60s. If this was any other country, the progress of the civil rights would have been stifled by the government. It would have been shut down. You know, there would have been more violence. And the only way to make progress would have probably had to been a violent overthrow of the government. And so that's where we've progressed over our hundreds of years, even to women's suffrage, the women's ability to vote. You don't see that in some other countries still because of the way that the government's designed. Our government is designed in a way where we could be progressive, but the current state of politics prevents the progression. That prevents people from listening. We've weaponized the ability of opinion. We weaponized the ability to shut down history. And so we're in dangerous waters as a result of that. And Trump's people and Fox News, for Christ's sakes, and even MSNBC, you know, they've taken history and they've taken pieces of influence and turn it in a way where we can no longer have a dialogue. It's automatic accusations. It's automatic, you know, you're at fault. We're never, ever, ever, ever going to fix it at this rate. And so two things are going to happen. We get a leader in there that can figure out how to bridge the gaps, which at this point is going to be one astounding fucking human being. Or number two, it's going to be civil discourse. It's going to be another war. And I don't want that because I'm raising 2 young boys. Who do you think they're going to put out there? They're going to put my kids out there.
Oh, that, yeah.
You know, I'm too old now.
Oh.
I may look dashingly young, but, you know, but anywho's, I went on a tirade of politics, so I apologize.
Oh, no, it's all good because I mean, like, you know, there is a little bit of structure to the show, but like, I love going off on tangents and like talking about other things that keeps the show interesting. So, I mean, absolutely. And like, I loved hearing your opinion on all this because it, you know, I love absorbing that kind of, you know, that knowledge and stuff, and some stuff I didn't even know about that you were talking about, but I definitely agree with you on a lot of it. And, I really hope we do get a leader that, you know, invokes a lot of change, that has a lot of balls to be able to pull the trigger and make some change like that, and not in any sort of negative way, you know, like, you know, not like Trump, you know, Trump has already done, you know, oh yeah, let's make America great again. Yeah. Look how great this fucking country is right now. No.
Well, that in itself is a racist term.
Yeah.
Why was it? What made it bad? I want to know what made it bad. Was it the progression of a black president? Was it because we have LGBT rights? Was it because we bailed out the corporations the past couple of years? Was it that we bailed out housing?
Yeah.
What made it bad that he needed to make it great again?
I don't get it, man. I don't. It's I'm so over it. I'm so over it by now.
So am I. It's honestly why I deleted my Facebook account to begin with, because I made so many friends over the years that I started losing track of, you know, why I friended some of these people, and some of the stuff that they were putting up was just, it was making me, you know, I was spending so much time arguing on there and making points to, you know, I might as well have been spitting in the wind, because it didn't matter how much I knew or how much I was educated, is that some people have, you know, that final thought in their mind. And, you know, no amount of education or information I provided them deprogrammed that thought.
Yeah.
And so it was anxiety provoking for me, to the point where, you know, I was pissed off all the time at home. So I was just like, fuck it. I'm deleting it and I'm going to start fresh.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I mean, like I've been slowly getting rid of people too myself, because especially with everything that happened the last few weeks, I'm like, wow, like half of these people I had no idea thought this way, that are coming out pretty racist. And I'm like, well, I don't need you in my life, because I don't, you know, and a lot of friends are like, well, you got to educate them. I'm like, no, I don't have fucking time to educate them. You know what I mean? Like, if they want to have a civil discussion, you know, then that's one thing. But I mean, like, you know, I'm not going to constantly leave comments to say, you know, educate yourselves, learn from history, this, that, and the other, and try to sway them in a different way if they're just going to be stubborn and not listen, you know?
The hard part about racism is that it's something that starts with somebody who, for a lack of better description, has to evolve. They have to evolve past their parent programming, and a lot of people can't. I mean, look at the imagery that, you know, they've been taught. You know, you see on the news, you know, black man robs a bank, black man, you know, shoots somebody, gang, you know, but you don't look and see stories on there about the black community that went and, you know, built their own social setup because the government refused to go in and help put a library in Harlem. You know, like, it's just, you see all the negative shit. And so, of course, people pair that with what they're perceiving, you know, when they look at this movement. And it's disgusting. It's not real. You know, what did Carson Tucker say the other day? You know, he said, you know,
I must have missed this.
They want to defund the police. They're coming for you. The liberals, all the people that are gathering for this Black Lives Matter, they're coming for you. Literally, that's what he said. He basically said the black people are coming for you. And he got away with that on national fucking TV. You know, he's It's pieces of shit like that is why we can't progress. You know, I'm not saying that every person is inherently good and every person is inherently bad, but you can't constantly project these images of one race and one people being constantly the bad guys. I can assure you that out of every African American I know and every white person I know, that there are far more, you know, within the white column here, white people that have gotten away with more heinous shit than I've ever seen or heard of than any of the African American people I know. But the African American people I know are the ones struggling the fucking most or given the less opportunities.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, I my last episode, that's by the time this comes out, my last episode will already be out, but my last guest was my longtime friend Kevin Jones, who's also African American, and we were just reminiscing about growing up and everything, and we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. But there was one story that I didn't I was going to talk about, but I forgot to during that episode, was the story that happened years ago. um I had my dad's 1988 Crown Victoria, and that was a fucking piece of shit. Let me tell you right now. What's that?
Must have been a boat.
Oh, dude, it was a huge boat, gas guzzler. But I never got pulled over so much in my entire life when I was driving that car. I got every time I was out on the road, I got pulled over for something, and I wasn't doing anything. It's just an old car, and I got pulled over a few times with Kevin in the car and my other friend Jay in the car. And I'll never forget this one time I got pulled over in a, you know, predominantly white neighborhood. And the cop asked, there were two of them. The cops asked for all of our IDs, and you know, they asked me to step out of the car, and then they pulled me away from my car, and they were like, "Are your friends carrying any illegal substances on?" I'm like, "Why? Because they're black? Is that why?" No. And I'm like, "Well, why are you profiling them? Are you assuming that they have drugs on them? Like, why are you, you know, asking me this?" "Well, we just got to make sure." And I'm like, "It doesn't make any sense to me." So I was like, "Where are you off to right now?" I'm like, "I'm heading home. We stopped to get food and we're heading home right now. That's all you need to know." Like, "Well, you know, we want to ask you some more questions." I was like, "Well, how about I make a phone call to my attorney, who, one, hates cops because she was shot by one." um you know, I dropped her name and everything. They're like, "Have a nice night," and then they let us go. But my friends already knew what was going on by the time I got back in the car, and I told them exactly what the cops told me. You know, it's reform like that needs, you know, it's change that needs to happen with the reform. You know, the funding is one thing, and like, I don't know if I really on board with a lot of it, because these cops put their lives at risk every single day, just as much as firefighters and, you know, EMTs and everything like that. But I think change needs to happen. I think reform needs to happen, and a lot of that racial profiling needs to stop as well too, because it's you know, to experience it myself, you know, for defending friends of mine, you know what I mean? It's that should have never have happened. That was total bullshit.
Police training needs to be 90% civil understanding, mental health development, community repair, community relationships. It needs to be that, in 10% how you kill a man. Because I'll give you one example. The last agency I worked at, we had a gentleman who had mentally disabled, residential program. The young man, when he has seizures, 24 hours after he has the seizure, he loses cognitive control over impulses such as anger and whatnot. He doesn't remember it. It's 24 hours that he loses in his life after a seizure. He's walking around, he's talking like you and I, but extreme aggression and violence, which is why he's in a group living situation. He's mentally disabled. So he's not a gentleman who, like you and I, who may have mental health and can understand what's going on with himself. He's disabled. So let's fast forward to this summer 2 years ago, where the gentleman has a seizure, starts becoming violent probably about 8 hours later. And what I mean by violent is, you know, pushing staff, getting verbally assaulted. But again, he's not in his right mind. He doesn't understand what he's doing. So the new staff that's working with him, and again, this is a fault of that staff's training as well, but the new staff calls the police. The police show up, and they show up to this man's home. He lives there. This is his house. He's in his backyard. He's just yelling profanities, right? The cops say, please put your hands up. Please put your hands up. And so the staff are like, well, he's disabled. He doesn't know better. We're not sure if he can respond right now. Cop said, I don't care. He needs to put his hands up. Doesn't put his hands up. You know what the cop does? Takes a taser, shoots it at him, drops him. You know what the cop doesn't realize? Is that this guy's got what's known as a electrical stimulus shock device in the back of his neck that controls the electrical impulses that go to his brain to control the seizures. He didn't realize that shocking him with the taser could have killed him. So that was his response to a mentally disabled man who he was informed was disabled and probably not able to respond. He dropped him. Instead of bringing in another cop or talking to the mentally disabled man, his immediate was to weaponize his engagement, and he hurt him. He took him down. Fortunately, this gentleman survived, but if he didn't, it would be a completely different story.
Mm-hmm. I fully hear you, man. Like, change needs to happen, man. More training needs to happen. And I'm not saying all cops are, bad or anything. I have friends who are cops that, are good cops. You know what I mean?
I have family that are cops, and the family that I have are cops are not, they're the same belief. Like, they're not going to go in guns blazing. They're not in it to militarize the approach. They're in there to be part of the community. But there's some men and some people who don't have that same concept. And, when a police chief or a police trainer come out and actually admit that they're in a war zone, those guys need to be fired.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not in a war zone.
Well, we've been going for pretty much over an hour now. No, it's all good. This is really good conversation, and it's really great catching up with you, man. Like, I definitely miss hanging out with you a lot, and just bullshitting and shooting the shit or whatever with you. What are your future plans once? I know we talked about it a little bit with music and everything, but what are your future plans? Once things start calming down a little bit.
When COVID calms down, I would like to, obviously music is a big part. I want to get out there with the original band and the cover band and do what I do. I didn't realize how much it mattered to my soul when everything shut down. So I'll be very happy to get that back going. I intend to do some traveling with my family. I'm turning the big 40 in December.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
You don't look a day over 35.
I appreciate it. But, for the big 40, I want to go and travel. That's always been a dream of mine, is to get up and, see the world before I died. So, but, I also want to work on my PhD. So I'm looking to get my doctorates.
And what field?
Public administration.
Oh.
So right now I got a master's in public administration and a bachelor's in political science and computer science. So, the PhD for me is, I want to be able to take that and utilize it to lead either nonprofits or local government in a way that, we can help people. That's the end game for me is how can I take my education and my career and move forward with helping people. And honestly, I want to be called Dr. Dan.
I was going to say Dr. View's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, it does. It does. But yeah, I'm a consummate learner. I love learning new shit, getting an education, not just through books and knowledge, but I love pop culture. So I'm like, well, crap, I can write real well. And that's pretty much like 90% of a doctorate's program is writing well and studying and analysis. So
Yeah, we didn't even talk about pop culture. You were on my last podcast, League of Extraordinary Frontmen, with everybody years ago. We were talking about pop culture stuff.
oh God, yeah. I think that also what keeps me young is I love seeing the new stuff that comes out, new and stupid trends. Although I am glad the Tide Pod challenge has died out.
Yeah. God, I love and hate the internet sometimes. I really do.
The internet's great for cat and dog videos, I guess.
Yeah, but not for stupid challenges like that. And if God, we're gonna get off on another tangent if I even open my mouth about that. Maybe we'll save it for the next episode we have together. But is there anything you want to plug before we finish up here?
Support the local scene. Get out there, and you got plenty of time to view some music. Check out our boys at Crossing Rubicon. I want to plug your video right there. I would have loved to promote the new band, but I promised the guys today I would be as vague as possible. Maybe we could talk about it offline.
All right.
But check out my band One Shot. We're hoping to play out locally, hopefully in the next couple months. Now that they're starting to open up outdoor venues.
There you go.
But I'll take my last couple seconds to promote Black Lives Matter. Get out there, do your part, vote. Even if you're not a Democrat or you're not a Republican, this is not about politics. This is about human rights.
Mm-hmm. You can even register as independent, like I did. You know what I mean? You get to vote either way you want.
Exactly. Go out there and make a difference. Don't be a barrier. If you have a strong opinion against it, all I ask that you do is just take a minute and listen to the other side. And I'm not saying somebody that is very aggressively violent about the opinion. Go back and look at the stats. Look at the information that they're referencing. Look at just the history, and just absorb that knowledge. So for at the very least, if you're arguing against it, you're fucking informed. Build an opinion off of knowledge, not off of blind allegiance to an opinion. So
couldn't agree more, man.
That's my say on that.
Oh, very good. And I'll be sure to leave a link for where people could check out your cover band One Shot. And I'm sure once the new project goes up, I'm sure you're going to be posting about that as well too. So
shit, Vision with Finn's still up too, so if they want to check out some of the old stuff too, by all means.
Yeah, definitely check out their latest album that dropped. Yours truly had a guest spot on the last track, Set in Motion, which was a lot of fun. And I'm totally open to doing that again, just saying, so whenever I get my solo album up and running, you'll definitely be doing a guest spot as well, buddy.
Sweet.
For me, you guys can make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, which is probably where you're watching this video right now. Hit that little bell icon to get notified every time we drop a video. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you guys get your podcasts from. Be sure to check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/JRBuckleGaming. Sometimes we do some Jackbox party games. I've had a lot of fun with friends playing those. Tonight I might jump on there, play some Final Fantasy, just to try to get through that game. That is one long fucking game, man, but it's amazing. Oh, excuse me. You can also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Roads We've Traveled Podcast. Give us a like and a follow. And if you're curious about my work, you can check out my portfolio at www.alanm@pelletierjr.com. You can see my fan art, my graphic design work, my video work, as Dan just mentioned. Crossing Rubicon's lyric video for I Will Remain is up right now. You can check it out on their YouTube channel or on my portfolio page. And I just did another lyric video for a client today, and it'll be out and ready whenever they promote it. So I'll be up on my portfolio sometime down the road too. So Dan, thanks again, man. This was a lot of fun. Like I miss you, man. And you know, once this is all over and you start playing out, I got a great car now. You know, it's not going to break down on me. Hopefully I'll get my ass up to Massachusetts and catch some shows, man.
Well, these guys are they're based out of Connecticut, so I'm a lot closer to you than you think.
Well, even better. I'm mobile. I can go wherever. So
Awesome. Well, hey man, thank you for having me on.
anytime, man. We'll do this again. All right.
All right, dude.
Bye.